Namaste, divine creations, divine marvels, beautiful souls. Thank you so much for dropping by this video. So this is going to be the first video in a series of recovering from fake non-duality, aka Neo-Advaita. Um, so if you're new to this channel, I invite you to take a look at some of my other videos that this video assumes that you have a little bit of knowledge about what non-duality, true non-duality is, Advaita Vedanta, and what fake non-duality is, Neo-Advaita. And so this is going to be a series of conversations I'm having with someone who reached out to me who is seeking help in recovering from fake non-duality. So this first one, I'm going by memory. And before I hop in, please don't believe anything I say. Don't believe anything anyone says, especially someone who is a quote spiritual teacher, especially if they're charging money or if they have a large group of followers. Please don't believe what they say. Find out for yourself what's true. So with that said, I'd also like to start us off with a prayer. And this person has a very strong connection to Christ, to Jesus and the Buddha. So um, that's the prayer I'm gonna work with. Beloved Source, God, ultimate reality, our dear friend, Jesus, and Lord Buddha. Please be present here. Please bless this undertaking. Please, for MD, not the person's real name, just using that. They want to remain anonymous. Please, for MD, for myself, for everyone who comes by this channel, please help us to know the truth and free ourselves from false spiritual doctrines that appear true, that seem to be true. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So again, this is a recreation of a conversation that I had with MD. And then in the future, I'm just going to record those conversations with their permission. And so to anyone new to this channel, warm welcome. To my regular viewers, I think this is, I'm really excited about this project. So thank you. So the first thing that MD shared was it was very hard to break free from Neo-Advaita because they're all kind of saying the same thing. And they're all saying it with such conviction. And it sounded very convincing. And so my response to that is you know, in essence, is it true that because a group of people are all saying the same thing with conviction that makes it true? In our experience, we all know that that's not true. There's a lot of flat earthers, people who believe the earth is flat, who are utterly convinced and can sometimes even create very convincing models and graphs. But maybe even more close to home, there are billions of, right now, right here, right now, there are billions of Christians who have certain theological beliefs and are very convinced of them. That most of us on the spiritual path can see that's just not true. Not just from a logical place, but from a spiritual knowing. We're like, oh, actually, that's not true. So conviction plus numbers does not equal truth. Truth is not a popularity contest. But MD is right. Neo-Advaita teachers, they speak with absolute truth, as if they're presenting the absolute truth and such deep, deep conviction. Many of them are very charismatic, and so I can understand that that thought. So the way to recover from Neo-Advaita is to educate yourself about Hinduism and about Advaita Vedanta. Because Neo-Advaita has little to nothing to do with Hinduism, which has thousands of years. Hinduism is literally thousands of years of mystics, very wise beings, refining the verbal expression of the truth and a pathway to the truth. So, um, so it's very important to educate yourself on what Hinduism actually teaches and and then within Hinduism, uh, what Advaita Vedanta actually teaches. So, um, one moment, I'm just taking some notes. Because once you do that, you'll see they're completely different. So I'm going to give you a very brief history of Advaita Vedanta. But first, I have to give you a history lesson of Vedanta. Now, here's what most people don't know. Advaita, so within Hinduism, there's roughly 6 main schools of philosophy. Uh, I don't have them memorized, but for example, yoga, not the postures of yoga, but there's actually a yoga school of philosophy. There's a Sankhya school of philosophy, and there's a Vedanta school, and there's 3 other schools which I don't have memorized. And so Vedanta Vedanta means the final truth, the culmination of truth or knowledge, the final knowledge or cultivation of knowledge. Now, here's the thing. Advaita Vedanta is merely one sub-school of Vedanta. So take a look at the Wikipedia article on Vedanta, and what you will see is that Advaita is merely one of 5 main schools, and I don't know that Wikipedia has it perfectly. And within those schools, there's even sub-schools. So, so yes, so it's very important to keep that in mind, is that, and I'll circle back in a moment, that Advaita Vedanta is nothing more than a sub-school of one school. Now, Neo-Advaita teachers will teach you, this is it, this is everything, everything else is nonsense. Of course, they can claim that. Hinduism disagrees, but that's a whole nother topic. But I invite people to educate themselves on what is Vedanta, and you'll be very uh, very intrigued to see. So, very briefly, what is Vedanta? Vedanta is a school of philosophy that examines the relationship between self, the world, and God. And it's based on 3 primary texts: the Bhagavad Gita, the Brahma Sutras, and the Upanishads. Now, and so within Vedanta, there's different interpretations of the Brahma Sutras, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Upanishads. There's different interpretations around what is the relationship between me, the world, and God. Advaita says they're all one and the same. Dvaita, which means duality, says they're completely separate. And then there's multiple schools of what can be called qualified non-duality that say God and creation are both um, are both one yet distinct. Advaita Vedanta is currently the most popular. Wasn't always so, and currently it is. So, so that's Vedanta. Now let's go into a brief um, history lesson of Advaita Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta formally starts with Adi Shankara. However, there were a couple predecessors, one of them named Gaudapada, who I personally have just looked at slightly, so I'm not the most knowledgeable. But formally, Advaita Vedanta starts with Adi Shankara, who studied, like all other people who pursue Vedanta, he studied the Bhagavad Gita, the Brahma Sutras, and the Upanishads under the guidance of a guru. He experienced a direct experience of ultimate reality, and then he wrote and taught from his experience. And now, again, here's where it gets really interesting. His interpretation of his experience was that self, world, and God are not, there's no distinction. They are ultimately one and the same. Now, this is in contradiction to many people who came before him, and it's in contradiction to many people who came after him. So I'm not saying Shankara was wrong, but I'm not saying he's right. This is a history lesson. Okay, it's very important to meditate on the fact that the school of Vedanta has been going on for quite some time, and there have been many, many, many wise sages who have had profound mystical experiences and who have um, come to their own conclusions or interpretation of these scriptures, which is different than Shankara's. So, fast forward, the school develops, it becomes the most popular, and fast forward to the 19th century, and Ramana Maharshi comes along. Now, Ramana had a profound awakening with no formal study, and he taught individuals who came to him. One such individual, and it's very important to note that Ramana never gave anyone permission to teach. He never formally initiated, and we'll talk a little bit more about guru later, but and the importance of that. One of the people he taught was a man named Papaji. Papaji had a profound experience and came to believe that he was enlightened, that he had realized. And Papaji began teaching, in essence, so far as I can tell, the first person to teach Neo-Advaita. So what is Neo-Advaita? Neo-Advaita is dripping away. So Vedanta and Advaita Vedanta is a whole system and a whole worldview, karma, reincarnation, practices to prepare one for self-inquiry. It's a whole systematic philosophy. And what Papaji did is he took one little piece of it and he started to teach that. In essence, he taught people the alphabet, but he only taught them the letters X, Y, and Z. So far as I can tell, he was the first Neo-Advaita teacher. And a little bit more down the road, I'll get into a formal definition of what is a Neo-Advaita teacher. But in essence, what it is it's only teaching a small part of Advaita Vedanta. Another prominent, around the same time, another prominent, Nisargadatta Maharaj, who was actually, his guru was not an Advaita guru, a different lineage, but his guru did not give him, he followed his guru's instructions. He had a profound awakening, and then again, he started to teach without his guru's permission. And he wrote the book, I Am That, which became world famous. And like Papaji, of the entire alphabet, he only taught X, Y, and Z. A number of then Papaji's students came and had some kind of experience. How profound, I don't know, it depends. And Papaji sent them out to bring people to him so that he could teach them. But what they did is they went out and taught on their own. Papaji spoke out against this, saying they were not enlightened, that they were completely acting from arrogance and ego. And since then, people have been misquoting Ramana or taking Ramana out of the Hindu context and taking one or two quotes and formulating a whole religion around those one or two quotes. Students of and doing the same, and students of uh, Papaji's, many of Papaji's students continue to teach, and some of Nisargadatta's students have continued to teach, and then other people are then buying the books of these people, having these spiritual experiences, thinking they're enlightened, and going out and teaching. And so that's a very brief history of the creation of the Neo-Advaita movement. And now it's literally spread all around the world, and you'll have teachers, I mean, and probably, I mean, all around the world, and the internet has made it worse. So that's a brief history lesson. And now it's time for the money to hit the road, or the rubber to meet the road. The money to hit the road. I don't know what that is. Here's the thing. What Nisargadatta taught, what Papaji taught, what Papaji's students teaches, and what these many, 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 many thousands, if not tens of thousands of Neo-Advaita teachers are teaching is in direct contradiction to what Adi Shankara taught. And if you study Ramana enough, not just a surface reading, you actually study what Ramana taught, and in direct contradiction to what Ramana taught. But even maybe more important, it's in direct contradiction to what the Bhagavad Gita taught, the Upanishads taught, and the Brahma Sutras taught, the fundamental texts of the Vedanta school. But maybe even more important, in fundamental, this is where it gets tricky because some of what they're teaching is in agreement. Let me put it this way. Most of what they're teaching is in fundamental disagreement with all that. And then on top of all the other people I've mentioned they disagree with, what Neo-Advaita teachers teach is in fundamental disagreement with, you could call, the mystical or wisdom traditions of the world. It flies in the face of all other spiritual teachings. That's part of what makes it so attractive. It's like, ooh, this is new and this is cool. But new and cool doesn't necessarily help you get to nirvana. If we can put aside the religion of Christianity, the religion of Buddhism, it's very easy to see that what Neo-Advaita teaches is in direct contradiction to the teachings of Christ and the teachings of Buddha. Anyone who goes and reads the source. Now, Ramana is not a reliable source because most of what Ramana did was he taught individuals. He didn't sit down and write a book. Well, actually, he wrote one book, the Upadesha Saram, and if you read that book, you'll see the clear contradiction, the clear contradiction. So what this comes down to is that while Neo-Advaita teachers are teaching some truths, and in some sense, some deep truths, they're teaching some deep things that are fundamentally in contradiction, not only to the wisdom traditions of the world, but fundamentally in contradiction to the other members of Advaita Vedanta, the school of Advaita Vedanta, such as Adi Shankara, such as Ramana Maharshi. So in essence, you have to make a choice. You need to educate yourself to make this choice. You have to decide, who am I going to follow? Who am I going to trust? Who is right? Is it Adi Shankara, Ramana Maharshi, the Bhagavad Gita, the Buddha, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutra, the wisdom traditions of the world? Are they right? Or are these jokers on the internet right? And if you study the lives of these jokers, you will find scandal after scandal after scandal. I went to a satsang of Ramesh Balkazar. He's no longer in his body. He was a student of Nisargadatta Maharaj. There are allegations of many, many, many sex scandals. I have no direct proof. I've read one source that I trust, a travel agency, who would bring people to meet Ramesh until then in the middle of one of their tours, they would literally organize tours for people to come meet Ramesh. In the middle of one of the tours, the allegations were like one of the lovers came in the middle of the meeting and like, you know, I'm not going to be your lover anymore. And then another woman stood up and like, you've got her. And like, it was just utter chaos in the travel agency. But of course, I read that on the internet. I can't prove it. Um, but there are many allegations. And at that satsang, you could buy. So Ramesh was in his late 60s when I was there, and you could buy pictures of Ramesh when he was in his 20s in a Speedo lifting weights. The dude, this guru, this alleged guru, I saw it with my own eyes. This alleged guru was selling pictures of himself in a Speedo lifting weights. Um, and you can't believe every scandal you hear, every rumor. And once I saw that, then I kind of started to wonder. But and I have so let's see if there's anything else I want to say about that. So I so yeah, so coming back to this choice. So you just can't follow both. What Neo-Advaita teachers are teaching is in direct contradiction. Some of it agrees. This is where it gets tricky. Some of it agrees. But the fundamental and the majority of the teaching is in direct contradiction to all these other sources. And so I say one of the first steps in freeing yourself from Neo-Advaita, first of all, is to stop listening to and associating with these teachers. And read the Bhagavad Gita. Educate yourself on Hinduism. And within a very short time, you will see, oh my God, these people have created their own tradition, which is fine. If you want to go create your own tradition, that's fine. But please don't say what you're doing is Hindu or Vedanta, much less Advaita Vedanta. Um, this person who I was doing this dialogue with pointed out that um, according to he'd been studying with one Neo-Advaita teacher, and according to that teacher, that teacher's bottom line is that nothing really matters. All that matters is awareness, and awareness doesn't care about anything. It's a very bleak, nihilistic picture of reality, and that's kind of where fake Advaita Vedanta, Neo-Advaita, will take you. Um, Adi Shankara was a devotee of God and particularly goddess. Most of what Adi Shankara wrote was devotional poems to the goddess. Not most of, a lot of. So Neo-Advaita, if you follow it, it will lead you to nihilism. It will lead you to nothing in this world matters. This world doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I do because nothing matters. All that matters is awareness. Everything else is meaningless. That's where Neo-Advaita will take you. It took me there, took me to the brink of suicide. I know people with nervous breakdowns, psychotic break. There have been suicides at one of the most famous Neo-Advaita teachers at their ashram. Um, it'll take you to a kind of insanity, a nihilistic insanity. And this person was starting to feel that. He was starting to feel like life doesn't matter. Like there's no point. It doesn't matter what I do. That's why I do this, because it almost destroyed my life and many other people. And because it is like a mental cult. Once you've bought into some of the teachings, it's very hard to extricate yourself. Um, the allure of Neo-Advaita is that it's addictive. It's um, it's a dissociative practice. Self-inquiry before you're ready is a dissociative practice, in my opinion, in my experience also. And so It's an addiction. Any addiction just temporarily numbs your pain, but it doesn't deal with the pain. Um, that's why people get addicted to things. They have a problem, they go or shoot up or porn or whatever, or gamble, and then they feel good. It gives them temporary feedback, it relieves the pain, and then if they do that enough over time, it becomes a craving, and they need more and more and more of it. And but it doesn't deal with the things that were causing pain. What separates Neo-Advaita from Advaita Vedanta is before Advaita Vedanta teaches self-inquiry, it teaches preparatory practices to get you ready. Self-inquiry or non-dual teachings before proper preparation, in my view, should be an actual crime. It is, um, it's horrific what it did to me and what it's done to many, many other people. Let's see, I have a comment from Marion. Cool. Marion just said that she offered a resource. And this is in the comment section, Samaneri Jayasara. She's a Buddhist nun, and she points people to the source traditions of all great traditions. See, that's the thing, is Neo-Advaita has stepped away from the source and it's doing its own thing. I'm an artist, I'm a creative person. I love doing my own thing. But in the realm of spirituality and spiritual teaching, doing your own thing is actually pretty dangerous because um, non-duality is literally a complete reshaping of your psyche, your personality, your emotions, your mind, your motivation, your will. And MD did what we all did, what I did, is we innocently assumed that what the person was telling us was true without discernment, without checking it out on our own. And that's the problem with people who go off and do their own thing in spiritual realms, is they can think they have the truth, but actually they're caught in another layer of ego, illusion, delusion, attachment, or evil. And that's where tradition and trust, many people on the spiritual path were like, poo poo, and I was one of them, poo poo tradition. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to follow my bliss. And that's a great advice in the realms of poetry and dance and living your life fully. But if you want to start doing, uh, if you want to allow someone to do literally psychic surgery on your personality, your emotions, your mind, your view of reality, your sense of reality, they need to be properly qualified. They need to be, you know, there's a reason why medical doctors aren't allowed to just go do their own thing. They're part of a larger community. They're part of a tradition. I'm not saying medicine is perfect, but Neo-Advaita has really taught us how just kind of going off and doing your own thing in spiritual realms is quite dangerous, quite dangerous. So this is part B for the beautiful conversation we had, and I hope this helps other people in their journey to recover from fake non-duality. So I'm going to close us with a prayer. This isn't to promote Christianity or Buddhism, but MD is a fan of Christ and the Buddha, so I'm just honoring his feelings. Beloved Source, our Maker, our dear friend Christ, the Buddha, please, for myself, for MD, for everyone who comes to this channel, please help us to learn to discern what's true. Please guide us in our learning so we can be properly educated on these various wisdom traditions, find the one that's most suitable to us, and also help to recognize when someone is just kind of making up their own thing, or when someone is caught in ego but thinks they're teaching the truth. And please just guide us in our recovery from fake non-duality. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Amen. Alleluia. Thank you so much, everyone who took the time to watch this. And I wish you blessed day and blessings on your journey. Take care.